It's me, Jamie Batts, your instructor for Bio 109. I wanted to go over Chapter 6 with you, just briefly give you some overviews. This chapter in the book is a bear of a chapter. There is an obscene amount of material covered in this one tiny chapter, and you only have 1 week to learn it. So I strongly suggest starting early in the week. This chapter really, the chapter in the book, really emphasizes the importance of the diagrams, the drawings, the images, and the pictures in the textbook. So again, I remember when I was in college reading the textbook, I felt like I just had to read it to check that off my to-do list, and actually reading to learn and understand the material. In this chapter, it's almost better for you not to read the words and just to learn the diagrams. So for instance, page 154 and 155 show you the differences between the 3 types of muscle tissue. That's important to understand, and it's diagrammed out there for you. Everything's highlighted in the pictures. It's explained out for you in the words, but I think you're going to get more from it by looking at the pictures and then trying to pull from those images the actual differences. Maybe look at these images here on 154 and 155 and actually making your own chart on a piece of note paper or whatever. That would be a good way to let that sink in. Same thing with 156, 157. This is showing you the structure of the skeletal muscle and how the skeletal muscle is put together. It's organized in a huge series of strands in a container within, and those are contained, and then there's another container, and then another container. They're all kind of grouped together. So understanding how those things group together is really important. So, and that's exactly what 156 and 157 are showing you. And then you get into the microscopic structure of the skeletal muscle there on 157, even more important. It's important to understand the what so that you can understand the how when we get to the physiology later on in the chapter, which is pretty much the next page. So then you have your nice little flow chart here on page 159. This diagram, I would take this diagram, redraw it, and then summarize it yourself, or put each of these little sections on a note card, draw it on one side of the note card, and then on the other side summarize it, and then see if you can keep putting the note cards back in order. That would be a really great way to learn the sliding filament theory and how the cross bridge actually happens in the whole contraction cycle. Same thing with the next couple of pages. You have a couple of like physiology pathways taking place, the actual excitation, contraction, coupling, and the events at the neuromuscular junction. All of those go right into the contraction cycle, and it's very important to understand how they all relate together. So I think by looking at each of these diagrams individually, redrawing them, and maybe even making individual note cards of every part of the flow chart and mixing them up, seeing if you can put them in order. It's really going to help your memory there. As you move through the rest of the chapter, you're going to come about terms like twitch and tetanus. That's where maybe reading the book. Hold on, I have to fix this. Got multiple computers going on here. Fix that one. That's where you're probably going to have to do some reading for understanding once you get to that section. But the first section is really image and picture intense. Then you get into some of the differences between the cardiac muscle and the smooth muscle, and how their basic contraction cycles are different. Finally, we get into the section that's all about the skeletal muscles. Do you need to know all of the skeletal muscles and all of their origins, insertions, and actions? No. Do you need to know the majority of them? Yes. And so what I've done is I've come up with a list, and the list is in your reading guide, and it highlights all of the important muscles, which, to be honest with you, it's the majority of the muscles from these charts in the book. Do you have to know origin and insertion and action? No. But if an essay question said something like, name 4 flexors of the thigh, then you should understand what a flexor of the thigh is and be able to name them, for example. So, or name some, 3 muscles of the back, or something like that. You should be able to identify those types of muscles. Obviously, or at least I hope it's obvious at this point, none of your exams have images or diagrams or labeling or anything associated with them. So none of that is a healthy way to study. It's more important that you understand what they are, what they do, right? And it's up to your lab instructor exactly how deep they want you to learn in terms of origin, insertion, and action. So please let me know if you have any questions, and keep up the hard work. Bye.